The prairie night breathed cold and endless, the kind of chill that seemed to whisper through the bones of every living thing. A thin crescent moon hung like a silver nail in the black sky, and beneath it, wind moved low across the grass, carrying the dry scent of earth and pine. Alden stepped from his cabin porch, boots crunching over frost-bitten boards, a lantern in hand. He meant only to check the horses before turning in, but the light caught something at the edge of the steps, a small shape, still a stone. At first, he thought it a bundle of cloth blown from a passing wagon. Then the shape stirred, shivering. His jaw tightened. He took a few careful steps closer, lowering the lantern. A woman lay curled near his porch post, wrapped in a tattered shawl. The wind tugged at her hair, dark, tangled, flecked with dust. Her lips were pale, her breath thin. "Get inside now." His voice came out rougher than he intended, but it carried the weight of command. She lifted her head slightly, eyes dazed and wide, as though waking from a long dream. She didn't move until he spoke again, slower this time, quieter. "You'll freeze out here. Come on." She hesitated, clutching a small bag to her chest. He could see how her fingers trembled, skin chapped and bruised from travel. Finally, she rose, unsteady, and followed him into the cabin. The warmth hit her like a wave, the smell of burning pine, the faint hiss of the fire. She hovered near the door, while Alden set the lantern down and poured coffee from a dented pot. "Sit," he said. Her eyes flicked from a chair to him, then back again, unsure if the offer was kindness or obligation. Slowly, she sat, her shoulders tense, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. He placed the cup before her. "Drink." She took it with both hands. The warmth seeped into her skin, and for the first time, her eyes began to focus. She looked around, rough-hewn walls, a rifle above the mantel, shelves lined with old tools and horse tack. A man's home. Ordered, simple, lonely. "You been on the road long?" he asked. Her voice came small but steady. 2 days since the last town. Maybe 3. He nodded once. "Where you headed?" She shook her head, a faint, weary smile touching her lips. "Nowhere in particular." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It simply existed, like the crackle of firewood between them. Alden had lived alone for years, content and quiet, but something about the woman's presence stirred a strange awareness in him, like a wind shifting before rain. When he finally spoke again, it was softer. "You can stay the night. There's an old bed in the spare room." "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice cracked, the words catching somewhere deep. He nodded, moved toward the door to bank the fire. Behind him, she said, "My name's Anne." He stopped mid-step, glanced over his shoulder. "Alden." That was all. 2 names exchanged in the glow of a dying fire. By morning, the frost had melted to mist. The land outside stretched gold and endless under a pale sun. Alden saddled his horse, while Anne stood by the doorway, wrapped in one of his coats. It hung heavy on her, sleeves long past her wrists. "You work cattle alone?" she asked. "Mostly," he said. "Suits me fine." He mounted the horse and tipped his hat. "There's coffee on the stove. I'll be back before noon." She nodded, her face unreadable. When he returned hours later, sweat darkened the collar of his shirt, and dust clung to his boots. The cabin smelled faintly of something warm, bread or biscuits, maybe. He found the table cleared, the floor swept, his tools neatly stacked, and turned from the stove, her cheeks flushed from heat, not shyness. "Hope you don't mind," she said. He leaned a hand on the doorway, studying her. "I don't mind." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she smiled, tentative but real. He felt something ease in his chest, something he hadn't known was locked tight. Days turned into weeks. The rhythm between them grew without words. She mended clothes. He split firewood, their silences filling with quiet understanding. The small things began to matter. The way she hummed old tunes while cooking. The way he lingered longer at the table to listen. Still, there were shadows in both their hearts. He saw it in her eyes when she thought he wasn't looking. Memories heavy as stones. One evening, as dusk spread purple across the plains, she stood at the porch rail, watching the sun sink. "You ever lost something that took your name with it?" she asked suddenly. He turned the thought over before replying. Once. She didn't press for more. Neither did he. It was enough that the question had been shared between them. But not everyone in the valley was so quiet. Word drifted down to the nearby settlement, Alden, the solitary rancher, keeping a widow under his roof. At the general store, voices dropped low, smirks exchanged like coins. When Alden rode into town for supplies, Sheriff Brant cornered him by the hitching post. "You sure about this?" Brant asked, not unkindly. "Folks talk." "Let M," Alden said. Brant studied him a long moment, then sighed. "Just don't get hurt again." Alden didn't answer. He rode home through a field of tall grass that whispered against his boots. That night, thunder gathered in the distance. The wind rose, bending the trees. Rain came in sheets, sharp and sudden. Alden rushed to pull the shutters, closed while, and gathered the laundry off the line. Lightning flared across the sky, and for a moment they both laughed, their hands fumbling, hair soaked, the absurdity of the storm breaking the walls between them. Inside, drenched and breathless, they stood by the fire, steam rising from their clothes. "You'll catch cold," she said. "So will you." She moved to hang her shawl near the fire. The room glowed soft and amber, shadows flickering like heartbeat. The storm outside roared, but within, the world felt small and safe. She turned, catching his gaze. Her face was calm, but her voice trembled. "I never thanked you for that night." He frowned slightly. "No need." "I mean it. You could have turned me away." His eyes softened. "I've been where you were. A long road." She looked down, her throat tightening. The tears came before she could stop them, silent at first, then shaking. She pressed her hands to her face, ashamed. He crossed the room slowly, knelt beside her, not touching, just close enough for her to feel his warmth. The fire cracked, a single ember lifting like a tiny star. After a while, she lowered her hands. Her eyes glistened, red-rimmed but steady. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once, unable to trust his own voice. When morning came, the storm was gone. The sky gleamed like glass. She was at the stove, hair damp, humming softly as sunlight spilled through the window. He sat at the table, watching her. "I'll ride you to town when you're ready," he said suddenly. Her hand stilled on the coffee pot. "You want me to go?" His throat tightened. "I want you to stay, if you want to." Her eyes met his, searching. For a moment, the only sound was the low hum of the fire. Then she smiled, small but certain. "I think I already decided that night, when you told me to get inside." Something inside him broke open, a space he'd kept locked for too long. Later that evening, as the sky turned gold, they stood on the porch side by side. The field stretched endless before them, wind rippling through the grass like waves. He held his hat loosely in both hands, his voice quieter than the breeze. "I've tried not to feel this," he said. "I told myself it's comfort, nothing more. But every morning since you came, I find myself listening for your footsteps. The cabin feels different, feels alive." Anne's lips parted, but no words came. Her breath trembled in the fading light. He stepped closer, his rough hands uncertain. "You make me remember what it means to come home." Her eyes shone. "I thought I was done being loved," she said softly. "Maybe love wasn't done with you," he murmured. The world around them seemed to hush, the wind, the fields, even the far-off cry of a coyote falling silent. Anne's tears caught the last light of day, turning to gold before they fell. He reached up, brushing one away with the gentleness of a man who'd forgotten how to be gentle. She smiled through the tears, and he knew, without need for words, that she would stay. Behind them, the cabin glowed like a beacon against the dusk. Two weary souls, once strangers, now bound by the quiet grace of being seen, being chosen. In that stillness, Alden finally felt the weight of a year's lift, and she felt something stronger than loss, belonging. The world outside could whisper what it wished. Inside they had found peace. And as the stars rose above the prairie, the wind carried a promise across the open land, a promise that sometimes the simplest act of kindness can change the course of two lives forever.